City Attorney, Clark.
Mayor, is that you?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. My apologies, I've been in cyberspace somewhere. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Have we begun the meeting? Would you please conduct it? I am not getting, I'm getting audio, not visual.
Okay, I am actually sick today, but I will do my best to run this completely. So, if my voice, yes, just let me know. Yeah, go ahead, that works, man.
I'm not. I'll stick on the wings, but I'll run it from the wings. That's how I like it.
Thanks, man.
Do you have a copy of the written copy of the agenda? Thanks.
I apologize, not again, I'm not going to visual, I can't hear it.
Yeah. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for putting up with us tonight. I welcome us to the regular City Council meeting of August, Monday, August the 2nd. This is our one and only meeting in August. Our next meeting is not until September, so enjoy the rest of the month off and not worrying about what we're up to here. I'd like to start by calling the meeting to order. I want to confirm that we do, in fact, have a quorum. Council members Harrison, Wolfley, Mayor Adams, and Mayor Pro Tem Boafo and myself are on. Did I miss any of my colleagues? I think we're good. I'd now like to invite us all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just a reminder to everyone online who may be joining us remotely to put yourselves on mute. Let's see. Do we have any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda this evening?
Nothing here.
Nothing. Citizen participation. Madam City Clerk. Okay, I only have one in-person citizen participation tonight. We did have a few things that were written into us that were included in the record. I'm going to invite Ms. Patrice Murray to join us this evening to talk about redistricting. Ma'am, the microphone is all yours if you just want to speak into that so we can get you on the record. And if you can just restate your name and the street that you're on for the record.
Absolutely. And I think I can safely demask while I'm up here. Thank you very much. My name is Patrice Murray, and I live on Jeremiah Lane. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Again, I am Patrice Murray, a resident of Collington Station in Bowie, Maryland. The Prince George's County Redistricting Commission has been working to create a redistricting plan to submit to the County Council, albeit with the use of proposed numbers, a plan that is equal in numbers and legitimate in design of redistricting for the 9 councilmanic districts in our county. As you know, the redistricting map must provide a compact and contiguous option which is equal in population for the citizens of this county to have the one person, one vote concept. Unfortunately, the Commission will not receive the 2020 census report until August 16th, thereby giving them less than 2 weeks to prepare a report of submission for the County Council. The Commission mentioned during their July 26 meeting that they had hoped more residents would have provided feedback. I appear before you tonight with the same sentiment. As a resident of the incorporated city of Bowie, my appeal tonight is simply this: that you, both as the city council and as a citizen of Bowie, make a recommendation to now the Prince George's County Council that at all costs, they keep incorporated Bowie together. The last day to submit testimony to the commission was July 30th. I will close by listing 4 reasons the city of Bowie should remain in one councilmatic district. 1, the residents of Collington Station, all 528 households, pay taxes to the city of Bowie. All Bowie residents deserve to have the same representation. District 4, based on the projected numbers the commission's consultant provided, exists within the recommended 4.5% deviation required by law. And finally, while the voting precinct located in Collington Station may include non-Collington Station residents, all of the actual residents of Collington Station live within the boundaries of incorporated City of Bowie. My request again is that you submit testimony to the Prince George's County Council that at all costs, they keep incorporated Bowie together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your commentary tonight, ma'am. I really appreciate that. And we'll be addressing that in item E under new business this evening. And if I understand from my colleagues correctly, that is something that I suspect we'll probably be on the same page about. So thank you. Moving right along, I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Harrison to start us off under presentations this evening with the Malcolm Skip Popp Award. Councilmember Harrison.
Be it hereby known to all that the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland is pleased to have the opportunity to acknowledge Alexandra Calloway as the 2021 Malcolm Skip Popp Award recipient. The Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland is pleased to note that Ms. Calloway has rendered outstanding service to Cub Scouting and Girl Scouting, particularly Cub Scout Pack 403, BSA Girl Troop 40G, and Girl Scout Troop 2713 in Bowie, Maryland, and is deserving of this special recognition. The Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland extends its best wishes and congratulations to Alexandra Calloway on this grand occasion and hopes this is the beginning of another great year for Ms. Calloway and Scouts in Bowie and around the world. Presented on this second day of August 2021, Timothy J. Adams, Mayor, Awilda Hernandez, City Clerk. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
They wanted to do the presentation.
Elevated mobile experience with BCC. We're giving you unlimited talk, unlimited data, and unlimited roaming for as low as $50 per month. All you have to do is sign up for any internet.
This has been the most exciting Pop Award we've ever had.
Could all the people, everybody mute their phones who are on the Teams meeting?
Take advantage of great savings.
Okay.
All right, so we're just going to do a presentation. I'm Sharon Hunt from the City of Bowie Community Outreach Committee, and I'm joined here by our chairman, Mary Ellen Winland, and Joseph Wright, and Bonaventure. And we're very excited to be awarding this to you today, Alexandra. This is a very, as we consider, a prestigious award in Bowie. Malcolm Skip Popp Award is offered by the City of Bowie for scouts or scout leaders who have performed extraordinary and distinguished community service within scout organizations in the City of Bowie. And I think extraordinary is what you performed last year in 2020, because this award is for then. Malcolm Skip Popp was an active member of the Bowie community for many years and helped to organize a Cub Scout pack at Buckingham Elementary School. In May of 1971, while on a camping trip with the Scouts, he successfully rescued a boy from the flood-swollen waters, but his life was lost in the effort. So that's why we take this award very seriously when we award it, because it's a special award. So this award was established, and we've had multiple winners. Your name has been added to this plaque here, and this particular troop has won a lot of Popp Awards. They are the A-team. And so that will be on the second floor upstairs. And what you won this for was in 2020, you led the formation of the first girl troop in Bowie area. This significant achievement created a welcoming organization for girls to experience the benefits of scouting for years to come. You were instrumental in keeping both troops together through the pandemic, which we know has been very difficult, but you all just kept on going, which is great, and you're helping with the rank and advancement in community service and hosting a virtual summer camp where Scouts earn 36 merit badges. So we'd like to present you with your own individualized plaque, and it says 2021 Malcolm Skip Popp Award presented to Alexandra Calloway, August 2nd, 2021. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to the Scouts. Thank you.
I'm going to have my young ones here stand right in front. If you, so you guys.
Yeah, as well as Jim Morehouse. His son is there. That's me. Robert Pumpkin, who was Phil's. Yeah. Yeah, how about that?
There we go. Round you guys out. Anyone else? Yeah, come on in. You're taller, so we'll put you next to your floor. Anyone else? Oh, now everyone can turn their bodies. So as a point of personal privilege, I'm going to read the next proclamation, which is for Mr. Bryce Montgomery, who is joining us tonight, I believe, remotely. Yep, we still got him up there. And tonight he's got a group of fans who are here to support him and who will accept the award ceremonial on his behalf. And Bryce, we'll see if the city clerk can't put this in the mail to you. I think we have your address on file. So a proclamation of the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, recognizing Bryce Montgomery for his inspirational hockey accomplishments. Whereas Bryce Montgomery is a lifelong resident of Bowie, Maryland, and whereas Bryce Montgomery has been skating at the Bowie Ice Arena's Learn to Skate program and participating in skating lessons and summer camps for multiple seasons, whereas Bryce Montgomery trained with dedicated hockey at the Bowie Ice Arena and recently returned to the ice arena for a stick and puck session to sharpen his skills, whereas Bryce Montgomery has graciously credited his coaches and Bowie Ice Arena staff for instilling in him a love of skating, whereas Bryce Montgomery was selected in the 6th round of the NHL draft by the Carolina Hurricanes, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland hereby recognizes and commends Bryce Montgomery for his hard work and dedication, which resulted in him achieving his dream. The Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland is pleased to show support for Bryce as he begins his new career as a professional hockey player. Presented by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland on August the 2nd, 2021. Signed, Timothy J. Adams, Mayor. Congratulations, Bryce.
Thank you.
And Bryce, do you want to say a word or two to your fans and supporters tonight?
Of course. You know, it's been an honor and a privilege for me to be part of the Bowie community, and it's my home. I really appreciate the work that it's made, and I appreciate the supporters coming out as well. So thank you so much.
So in the next 5 or 6 years, are you and your brother going to be competing against each other in the NHL? And how's that going to affect Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah, that's the dream for sure, you know, and it'll definitely affect Thanksgiving dinner for sure. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations, Bryce. Do some of the fans want to come up and just grab a photo with the proclamation, and we'll see if we can't get Bryce's likeness in the background.
Congratulations, Bryce. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Bryce. We'll be watching you.
Thank you so much.
Bryce, Miss Carey, I expect to see you at 6:30 a.m.
Of course, you know.
Bryce, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Unless you want to stick around for the rest of our agenda, items A through Z, you can feel welcome to head on back to what you were doing. And safe travels.
No problem. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right. One nice thing about this city is there is never any shortage of things or people to celebrate. It's always the people that make a community great, and we have no shortage of those wonderful people. So I can't thank you all for being here tonight in support of your loved ones who have done some really, really cool things for our city. Moving along to city boards and committees. Anything for that tonight, Madam City Clerk?
No, Councilmember Estev.
Okay. Any council announcements? Councilmember Harris.
Yes, thank you very much, Councilmember Stev. Just briefly, I wanted to just give some recognition to someone. On July 30th, Senator Douglas J.J. Peters retired from the Senate as he was appointed from the governor to the Maryland Board of Regents. I wish to extend a very special thank you and high commendation to our now former senator from his service from this city council to the county council to the Senate. Doug has always kept Prince George's County first and had a special affinity for the city of Bowie. I thank him for his many years of hard work, dedication, and commitment to the citizens. And tonight, we honor and applaud him. Thank you so much, Senator Peters.
Thank you so much for that, council member. Definitely wholeheartedly second those thoughts. I think the senator just got back from what I think the paper described as his first real family vacation in like 23 years. So I hope he enjoyed the Bahamas because it was well deserved. Council member Wolfley, anything? Nothing here. All set. Anything from our friends online, Mr. Mayor, council member, or Mayor Pro Tem Boafo? No, I think we're set. City manager's report. Mr. Allott, how are you tonight, sir?
Good, thank you, Mr. Estep, and city council members and residents of Bowie. I'd like to make 3 points tonight. The staff is focused on 3 significant things these days. One of them is to manage the reopening so that we can keep our everybody safe and continue and open up the city and so that we can get on our lives. Secondly, we're continuing to support the conduct of our audit of our financial affairs, which is a major event, and of course you'll be getting the results of that pretty soon. And third, we're pressing the issue of getting all of our employees vaccinated. Currently, we have about 83% of our employees vaccinated, which is significant in today's world, but we're pushing to get that to 100, and we're working hard on that one. And as the variant comes alive and seems to want to slow things down, but those are our efforts. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
And I want to say a huge word of thanks to all of our city personnel. This has been the year and a half from hell, and one very cool thing about this town is an asteroid could strike and we would still manage to pick up the trash, pick up the recycling, pick up the compost, pick up the tires, issue the code citations, and keep the water running and do all the other cool things we do. And that's only because we have, I believe, some of the finest city staff in the region. And we can't thank you enough for your dedication to the city. I know that we constantly come up with ways to make your lives more difficult, and you never complain about it, and I'm also very grateful for that too. Consent agenda tonight, we have items A, B, C, D, and E. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda this evening?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. I've never done this before. This is really cool. Awesome. Moving on to old business. I know. It's going to go to my head. Item A under new old business, adoption of ordinance O-3-21, amending City Code Chapter 10. I'm not going to read the whole title or we'll be here all night. I'll give it over to city staff right now.
Hi, I'm Jamie Braun, Code Compliance Supervisor for the city. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. This ordinance was prepared originally in June and introduced in June to address several concerns about trash in Bowie, including litter, turkey vultures, refuse container storage, and the refuse collection. Due to council member comments about bulk item collection and when the ordinance would take effect, amendments were made to distinguish refuse from household trash, to allow for current bulk collection standards to stay and practices. And then in addition, the effective date was changed to November 1st, 2021. Your approval is requested.
Thank you so much, Ms. Braun, and I especially want to say a big thank you to Code. For those of you who don't know, at the height of the pandemic when we had to keep a lot of our employees at home, and unfortunately code enforcement's not exactly something you can do remotely, Ms. Braun personally got in her car and was the code compliance officer for the entire city of Bowie, while the court system was not processing any code complaints, but she was doing a fantastic job communicating with residents and keeping them informed all by herself. And so we can't thank you enough for that. That's the kind of dedication that we love here and that we always talk about. Do we have any public comments tonight related to code, Madam City Clerk, or is this ineligible for public comment this evening?
There is a public hearing, but there are no comments.
Okay. I suspect we're going to have questions from my colleagues. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to start with?
Yes, I do have a
Councilmember
question.
Harrison, take it away.
So my question is, I've received several concerns from residents about the purchase, they're having to purchase their own trash cans. And their issue is that they've had to purchase several because they continue to be broken, thrown around, and just destroyed by the workers who pick up the trash. So is there a way that we could possibly purchase receptacles so that they're all consistent for the residents for this particular area?
Well, I'm not sure that your question is related to this, but I did see the emails about that. We could price out what it will cost us to buy trash cans for everybody. I will say this, I mean, beg your pardon? Oh, yeah. Oh, gee, well. Yeah, that would be an additional $874,000 to buy trash cans for everybody in the city of Bowie, yeah. Well, I'd be happy to talk with the residents who have had their trash cans damaged, and maybe we can coach and counsel the employees. I'd like to say that I've had the same trash cans for 10 years, and they have not been damaged in Northridge. But I certainly like to talk to them about how that's happening, and I can talk to the superintendent about it. But you know, if the council wants, we can address that in the next year's budget. Now that's done in other cities. We did it in Tacoma Park, College Park. We purchased the recycling bins and the toters for the trash for the residents. But we also collected a significant fee in general over there. But if the council's prepared to pay that, to add that much money to the budget, we can price things out and see what comes out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wolfley.
Thank you. Thank you. As per usual, this subject, for whatever reason, I seem to have a lot of questions on. So thanks, first of all. I want to start off by saying thank you for the modifications that you made based on the comments we had last time around. A couple of things. The first, I'm going to start with City Attorney for a quick question. At the end of the legislation, or of the end of the document here, there is a phrase that caught my attention, and it says, let me get to there. If I was dealing in paper, I could do it more quickly. Said the ordinance shall become effective November 1st, provided a fair summary of this ordinance is published at least once prior to the date of passage and at least once within 10 days after date of passage and here's the words that concern me, in a newspaper having general circulation in the city. Given where we are with the Bowie blade and it being, I assume, our prior vehicle for general circulation, what happens here?
So we are working on an ordinance to bring to you to make some modifications to your code and charter with respect to the newspaper having general circulation. I think that it is acceptable to interpret that phrase with respect to city ordinances in a manner that reflects actual practice. So I understand that the blade is not a paid subscription circulation any longer, and I think in the meantime it can go ahead and be published online. However, we would like to clarify that point because it has come to our attention before this evening.
So if we pass this evening, is there anything that we would need to do? I guess we'd have enough time for that other modifications to the charter and the code to allow for something to take effect, or do you think just publishing it in the online version would be sufficient?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right.
Notwithstanding the fact that we do wish to clarify, and so we will be bringing something to you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I started with the end, so I'm going to go back up to the to earlier sections here. First of all, I want to say thank you, and just for any citizens that are out there watching now, just please be attentive to your trash. What's precipitating all this is that there's been a fair number of instances where we've had turkey vultures and other critters who've availed themselves of the trash that's been put out at the curb and have, in the process, made a fine mess of the surrounding area. They get into the plastic bags and they'll pull out food scraps or other items and then leave a mess all over the place, and that's obviously not good for the city. So that certainly is precipitating some of these changes, and some of these things are just clarifications that needed to happen anyway. So again, thanks to staff for that, and if you're out there, please be sure to put your trash in a can to help protect against that. With that in mind, of a couple other, perhaps we can go on mute, I'm not sure. Yeah, thank you. Couple of other issues as well, and I will start with kind of my story and my perspective on this, and I'm going to look at the bottom of page 4. Is it 4? Or maybe it's, let me find it. That's what I'm trying to find right now. I may have gone to the wrong section. You know what? That would be great. Thank you. One of the issues that I have a concern with is that we make mention in here that there are a number of things that are not allowable, specifically lumber, window, doors, drywall, and tile. So I've been in the city for quite some time, and over the course of time I've lived in 2 houses and done a lot of remodeling work over those years myself. And I've been the guy who's taken out windows and doors and things like that. And one of the wonderful services that the city has provided over the course of time has been we take pretty much everything. And what I don't like about some of these changes here is that it starts shifting us away from that situation where pretty much just about everything is taken with some exceptions, and there's some legitimate great exceptions in here. We don't need asbestos going into our stream. You know, I did some reshingling of my house, and I got myself a dumpster to have them come pick that up. We should not be picking up roof shingles. We should not be picking up rubble, dirt, mulch, things along those lines. But I do think there are other things in here that we ought to be taking care of. And one of the concerns I have just at the high level, at an aggregate level, is if we don't pick up these items, a lot of these items, well, I shouldn't say a lot, some of these items are going to end up out there anyway, and they will not end up necessarily at the curb. They'll be in a ravine somewhere, they'll be on some vacant lot or some house with a for sale sign in front with nobody living in it, and someone will take the sofa and dump it over there and leave us with a community with these various eyesores that will need attention to then go and address, which I think is where I want to make sure we don't end up. So as I'm looking at these things, I'm really concerned about that. So I want to strike those, and I'll make the motion later to approve this, because I do think this is a great move in the direction we need to be, codifying a lot of these things, and in particular trying to get some of these things out. But I have some concerns about that. And then I did have some things that I had a question on that was, as much as anything, it was curiosity. Can you speak to bamboo and white office paper? Bamboo is apparently not something that we're allowed to put in there, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm just trying to figure out why that might be in that forbidden list.
Okay, so I'll address the first thing, the first concern first, which is doors and windows and the lumber are not accepted by Brown Station. So we are not supposed to be collecting that. We cannot collect it and bring it to the facility where the city puts the, dumps the trash, the household trash, or excuse me, the municipal waste. So if that has been done in the past, that was because in the past, they must have accepted that type of waste. But we worked very diligently with between Brown Station and the Public Works crew, and I asked them specifically everything that they could pick up. And they said that these items are not things that's even on our website, that we don't pick up windows, doors, or lumber, or the drywall, things like that. But we did add F, which says waste building materials. And waste building materials that are, part of the household trash says that waste building materials from projects completed by the homeowner on the residential property. So, if you are doing some type of construction on your property and you have some waste building materials, you can put those out for trash as long as they're in something that we can, so that the collection people can put it into the truck. So whether it be a construction bag or has to be less than 50 pounds in a trash can, something to that effect. But we went through the Brown Station, what they will not allow us to dump there, and those things were included. So that's why we had to include them here.
Interesting. So is there anything that we can provide for citizens in terms of insights or direction, or where we can send people, or are there other ways we can deal with this problem? What do you recommend?
So I was told that there is the Anne Arundel County facility, the Burns Crossing facility, even though it's in Anne Arundel County, because the only thing they don't accept is hazardous waste. So they collect everything else. Or you've got junk, 1-800 junk, the contractor bags now, those are very cheap. They're dumpster bags instead of dumpsters and things like that. So I think the idea with Brown Station and many landfills doing this is that they just can't handle this type of waste anymore, and so they can't include it as household or municipal waste, and so they've changed their acceptances. And it costs a lot of money to try and take it there yourself if you're in a truck or a van.
Yeah.
So it's very frustrating, but we're limited to what the landfill will allow us to bring in.
Very discouraging.
Yeah.
Very discouraging indeed. So other alternatives from the standpoint of special pickup days or anything, is there anything we could do that, maybe a periodic, as we do for, special, styrofoam or we do for electronics, and we have shred days. Is there anything we could do to address some of it in that regard? I don't know if there's some research could be done on that.
I'm sure there could be, because we can work with Public Works to see if there's something that we can do in that fashion.
Yeah, my concern is that I don't want to start seeing things in piles around the city because people don't have the opportunity to be able to throw things away.
Sure, this list does include a lot of things that, other places don't collect, like
Sure.
countertops and cabinetry and furniture. So those bulk items are still included.
Yeah.
All those big items, I tried to, even the non-metal plumbing fixtures, things like that, we tried to make sure that if you were doing a home renovation and you had to remove something large, you could still be able to put that out with your regular trash. So we tried to put everything in that wasn't prohibited by the landfill.
Mm-hmm.
And then we added this waste building material piece as well.
Good, yeah, and thank you. I appreciate that, because I do know that there are a lot of folks out there that do that, inclusive of myself. And I think since Bill Levitt planted his first house here, people have been making improvements and generating the associated waste. So, all right.
So when it comes to the recycling, that came directly from the previous Public Works Director, George Stefanos.
Mm-hmm.
And I can answer about Remind me again what you said again.
There were two, the one was bamboo, and I know bamboo is an insidious invasive plant, and I think a lot of people take it out after they find out. First, they're greatly excited by the prospect of a quick screen, and then they realize it's pretty invasive. But it says we don't take it, and I don't think that's a problem. I'm more curious as to then how someone would get rid of it too.
So that's actually a section that's being removed. What the idea here is that we collect a lot more with our recycling collection than we used to. And we used to specify all these things: glass, aluminum, steel, metal, paper, so forth and so on. Yes, ma'am.
It's in the yard waste provision.
It's in the yard waste provision.
We don't include it in yard waste. Bamboo.
Correct.
It has just been there.
Oh, because it's not collected, yeah. And honestly, so bamboo is not new. That's something that's also not accepted by the recycling facility that we take yard waste to. They don't accept bamboo as yard waste. So that's why that's included in the yard waste section. And then the other part about the paper, the white office paper, that section is actually being removed.
Oh, okay.
And so we're taking out all of that specificity and putting in the what we take now, pretty much everything: plastic, metal, glass, drink, cardboard, paper. So.
Great, thank you. I must have misread the 6 versions of key codes down at the bottom, and no, that's okay. I mean, the mistake is on my part. The other issue I have is on one of the issues I have is on the contractor bags. I believe we specify a 32-gallon contractor bag. And I did a quick search at Lowe's. That's section F. Waste building materials to be collected within household must be placed in 32-gallon contractor bags or trash receptacles. Trouble is, if I just stopped at Lowe's, I didn't go looking everywhere, but it turns out that they don't sell 32-gallon contractor bags. They've got 44, 39, 45, 50 is a popular one. So is there a reason for 32, or is it just somebody's?
That was, again, the recommendation from the Public Works Director. So trash cans, the minimum, the average size is a 32-gallon trash can. And so we were just being consistent with the trash can size. And so you can get the 32 at Walmart.
Oh, how about that?
But I don't think we're going to be out there measuring the size of the
Right.
bag. As
Well,
long as
I
it's
think-
not more than 50 pounds, I think that's the idea
Well,
here.
I think that's the issue, right? And I think if we can just take that 32 out, that would take care of the problem, because I think the main driver is the 50-pound limit. I don't want somebody hurting themselves schlepping a bag into a truck and find out that it's 75 pounds. And we don't need the workplace injury, and people should be capable of keeping the size down. I, for one, am not one to haul down 50 pounds to the curb. I'll be hauling 30 pounds at a time, or 20 pounds, hauling 20, dragging 30. All right, and I think that's it. Published newspapers. Oh, I'm sorry. In the white paper, white office paper, it was just has been that way. Oh, that's right. It's coming out. I'm sorry. That's right. All right. Thank you.
And I apologize, council members. So the only change that you would propose was the 32-gallon bag to 50-gallon bag?
Well, actually, just removing the size of the bag, since there are so many. So it would be contractor bag, so that there's the 50-pound limit would take care of, I think, everything.
Okay. Remove bag size and stick to 50 pounds. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Estep,
Yeah, please go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
okay,
Oh.
Mr. Mayor, I think you might be breaking up or freezing on us. I apologize.
changes, from the beginning. If it continues, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the hard work of making the changes that were in there. And I think Council Member Wolfie made a very, very good point. And that is, if we could take a look at some of those items that we said we could not handle or could not be disposed of, look at a way that we might be able to provide the residents with a way of doing so. Because I think he's absolutely right. We don't want those things ending up somewhere in the city or on the side somewhere. And so if we can come back with some recommendation on how we can handle all of the items that we need in the city to dispose of, even if it's recommendations that we can make to the citizen, I think would be very good. And thanks. You went through that very detailed, and I thought you did a great job of the changes that you placed. And that's all I need to say with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. And I apologize that you were breaking up just a little at the beginning, but I think we got the rest. So I think we got all the important parts. Mayor Pro Tem Boafo, do you have any comments or questions on this?
No, I don't. Thank you so much, Mike.
You're very welcome. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Councilmember Ndebumadu, I believe, has joined us. Do you have any questions or thoughts on this, Councilmember Ndebumadu?
No, thank you so much, Councilmember Staff. I do not at this time. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Staff, I do have a couple of quick questions. When do we need to take action on this? Do we have a deadline that we need to follow for this? Not a problem. We'll give you a moment. Well, I'll give you a moment on that. I'll ask different questions of staff. Oh, sorry.
Typically, an ordinance has to be introduced and adopted within a 60-day period, but I don't remember specifically what your charter says, so I'm just going to take a look while you ask your other questions.
That's perfectly fair. We appreciate accuracy, so thank you so much, Ms. City Attorney. For staff, so for the folks at home, walk me through what the experience of a regular resident will be when it comes to trash pickup. So they're going to be responsible for providing their own trash can at this point moving forward?
Well, they already are providing their own trash cans. What we provide is the recycling bin.
So we've never provided the trash cans?
No, and that would be an additional cost charge to the budget and something we'd have to look at for either a significant budget amendment in this year or in next year's budget and add the estimated $800,000+ cost.
Understood. So from the residents' perspective, what day-to-day change is going to hit them that they're not going to be happy about? Or might just notice?
The day-to-day change is that they're no longer going to be able to just put bags out at the street with their garbage refuse, the food scraps, anything that animals or vermin are attracted to. They're going to have to put those into a trash can with a lid.
Okay.
And to be collected.
So when Public Works drives by and residents who haven't gotten the memo, because the vast majority aren't going to get the memo until they someone comes and tells them about it, what's the process going to be for that? I mean, is someone going to leave like a note on the trash just saying, hey, just in the future, please put this in a container? Or how's that going to look from the resident's perspective?
Well, what we're going to have to do, if this change occurs, then there's going to have to be a significant marketing campaign to let everybody know the change exists. We aren't going to leave bags of trash on the side of the road, and we may put notes on doors, but we're going to pick the trash up and move on, hoping that we will get compliance the next time. That's a significant problem with the turkey vultures in one district, because those people aren't able to store their trash, to keep their trash cans at the front of their houses. And as a result, they all sort of pile up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bags of trash at a certain point near the mailbox, really. And so as a result, the turkey vultures, descend on them, and they walk around and really make a mess. So I think one of the things is in this ordinance, correct me if I'm wrong, is the authority for people to put their trash cans in front of their houses.
Yes, that's correct. So
Right.
we have only when it's an attached structure, so that would mean townhouses or condos, and they don't have a side yard, then those people will be allowed to store their trash cans out front as long as it is screened from view year-round. And that will give the opportunity for homeowners associations, which those are mainly who are affected by this situation. They can actually further regulate what is acceptable for them in their communities as screening. But we're going to say, you can do it, you can put it in front, you have to screen it, has to be out of public view all year long.
Understood. Okay. So I guess my only comment on all of that would be, you know, and this is not a knock. I mean, our communication staff is wonderful and Una does a fantastic job. But knowing how these things tend to go, I suspect 80% of the people who will not know to abide by these rules aren't going to know until someone leaves something at their door telling them about the new rules. And I guess my only ask would be, as usual and as always, just patience with residents, but just making sure that there's an unmistakable way they'll find out that doesn't involve, you know, a citation right away, maybe a note at the door. I know during the pandemic we had Public Works, or I believe Code, leaving notes on trash or on trash cans or on doors or wherever to let them know about the temporary changes that we'd made during the pandemic. And so if there's a system along those lines we could employ, that would be wonderful. My only other ask, if you guys are open to it, would be that those notes also include encouragement for residents to sign up for Bowie alerts. I think anytime we leave paper at a door, that's always an opportunity to have just a little line that encourages them to sign up for Bowie alerts. And even if a small number takes us up on it, then that's a huge win. I appreciate it. I've been informed that Councilmember Gardner is also online. I apologize, Councilmember Gardner, for missing you a moment ago. Do you have any questions or thoughts on this issue, sir?
No, Councilmember and staff, thank you very much for asking, and I've been listening and observing. Thank you very much for the recognition.
And I apologize for missing you earlier, and I'm glad that you're sounding healthy. Some folks on our call aren't feeling too good today, so it's great to have you here, sir. All right, if there are no other questions or comments, oh, I'm so sorry, Madam City Attorney, you were going to get back to me on a question I asked earlier and forgot about.
And in fact, one moment, your section 12 of your charter does say, at a meeting no less than 6 nor more than 60 days after the meeting at which an ordinance was introduced, it shall be passed as amended, rejected, etc. But you can also, within that 60-day period, defer it to some specific future date. So that gets you a little more time on the end of the 60 days.
Perfect. And sorry, I'll recognize you, Councilmember Harrison, because I couldn't hear and I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I said I agree. I think that's something we should consider doing.
Consider delaying it?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask you, Councilmember, are there any, so I think the only amendment that was going to be proposed tonight was Councilmember Wolfley's suggestion of eliminating the 32-gallon bag requirement in favor of just keeping it at the 50-pound requirement. Were there any additional concerns or hang-ups? Because I have no issue in supporting a delay, but I was just wondering if there was anything else tonight that we could consider. Okay. All right. Would you like, I'm so sorry.
Good.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilman, and it's so hard being away. Madam City Attorney, so there's no action we need to take to extend that now. If we decide to pass it, we don't have to put in a date or an extension at this time. We can just simply add that on within the 60 days. Is that correct?
No, Mayor, you need to defer it to a specific date, so there'll need to be a motion.
So that'll be a part of what we need to do tonight?
So sorry, couldn't catch that. Could you try one more time?
I was asking if we needed to make that kind of a specific motion.
Yeah, it's because
Does it have to be a motion tonight we have to include in that?
Yes, because it's an action item. Council has to take some action on it, either to vote on it.
I don't know if you're able to hear me or if I've been lost.
Sorry, Council has, it's an agenda, it's an action item, so council has to take some action on it, and and that would be in the form of a motion. And the motion would either be to pass as amend, reject, or defer to a specific future date. So yeah, you would have to take that action this evening.
So for staff then real quick, so thank you for answering that. For the date in which the change goes into effect, could we delay that date?
Yes, so.
Okay. Yeah, and I apologize, I misunderstood the question that Councilmember Harrison was asking earlier.
So, hold on one second. Except as set forth in subsection C, every ordinance shall become effective at the expiration of 30 days. But subsection C says, the council may, upon a majority vote of its members, provide that an ordinance will take effect on a date later than the 30 days after its passage.
Okay, so there's nothing there's no ceiling on when the date can be, there's only a floor.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm glad that you got that.
Well, you can also, there's a floor, but you could also avoid that by enacting an emergency ordinance.
Okay.
That's not necessarily relevant for this, however, just for your FYI.
Perfect. Councilmember Harrison.
I do have a question. So let's say, so when it goes into effect November 1st, right? Then would people be fined after that?
So we would be doing the communications. When it goes in effect November 1st, that's when code enforcement officers would start with the courtesy notices, leaving them on somebody's door saying, okay, this is the new ordinance. I expect the only time a fine would be issued is if somebody is habitually leaving their trash out and an animal is getting into it, strewing it throughout the neighborhood. So for those houses where people are just refusing to comply with the new ordinance and an animal has gotten into it, then those would be sufficient reasons for municipal infractions. Just putting bags out that are not being gotten into by animals, yes, it is technically a violation if we have proof that that's garbage, food scraps, and things like that. But for an enforcement purpose and for when we have to go to court and prove to a judge that this is a violation of the city code, we're going to have proof that it was strewn through the neighborhood by the animals.
One other thing regarding that, in many cases, it would have been a complaint filed to us by their neighbors, complaining about that. That's how most of our code enforcement actions are taken. So that's one of the things to consider, and that would really help that HOA that's complained about the turkey board.
Oh, and I totally understand that, because I definitely want to have that problem resolved. I don't want them to have to wait. I just didn't want people that maybe didn't get the notification to be penalized right away. So just clarifying that.
We don't intend to do that. We intend to inform everybody. We do have a significant number of people in the city, if my neighborhood is classic, who 1 out of 10 only put a bag out, of course, and so it would take some education on our part, notification that the circumstances have changed. I think when their neighbors, if the situation arrives where there are animals eating the bags and littering the neighborhood, and we get those sorts of complaints, I believe that once the people are notified, they'll comply.
Right.
And it won't be an issue, really.
Understand. And I'm okay with the November 1st date as long as we go through that.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you wanted to move it to December 1 or January 1, but if you're comfortable with November 1, then I don't have an objection.
Comfortable, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Councilmember Harrison. Do I have any more questions from my colleagues on this particular item? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the, what are the numbers here? Ordinance 03-21, amending Chapter 10, Garbage and Trash, with the one exception in Section 5, striking the words 32 gallon from Section F, first sentence.
And I'd like to second that.
The motion with an amendment was moved by Councilmember Wolfley and seconded by Councilmember Gardner. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed signal by saying nay. Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. Staff, everything understood there? Any follow-up, any questions? All right, thank you so much, folks. Trash and recycling. This is what local government's all about and why our TV ratings at home are not as high as The Bachelor. Moving on to new business. Item A, city transportation priority lists. I'm going to turn this over to city staff.
Good evening, council. For the record, I'm Joe Meinert, the planning director for the city, and tonight's agenda item is for us to review your transportation priority list. This is an annual exercise that council goes through with respect to both county transportation facilities as well as state transportation facilities. We've given you a memo dated July 29th, which has all of the backup information pertaining to the last year's letters. The state letter from last year is attachment 2, and the county letter is attachment 5 to that packet. Very briefly, there are 4 steps involved in the transportation improvement process: project planning, design and engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. The city's highest priorities for transportation are Maryland Route 197, Maryland Route 450, and Church Road. In terms of the state transportation projects that are currently in the state's consolidated transportation program, there's a project for Maryland Route 450 and one for Route 197. Both of those projects are currently on hold for lack of funding. Also, 3 projects in the project planning stage that have achieved some level of design through that process are also on hold. Maryland Route 3 from 450 to the Anne Arundel County, or from US 50 to Anne Arundel County, 301-197 interchange, and then the 301 South corridor transportation study. Those are on hold. We always highlight for council the recommendations for state transportation projects. Obviously, the highest priority is the urgently needed upgrade of Maryland Route 197 and move that into the construction program. It's currently in the design and engineering phase, but we want to get full funding for that project to advance it. Maryland Route 450 is also one that we recommend every year about moving the funds into construction. Number 3 on that list is grade separation of the Maryland or of the US 301 intersection with Maryland 197 and Harbor Way and Governor Bridge Road, as well as Excalibur Road. That's a large project that the state has moved through the project planning stage, and we'd like to see it move into design and engineering. Number 4 is the upgrading of Maryland Route 3, as I mentioned, putting design and engineering funding in for that. Number 5, upgrading US 301 from Excalibur Road south to Leland Road. Number 6 is public transit in the US 50 corridor. Number 7 is the council's desire to see a new interchange on US 50 at Maryland 193. That's also a project that Prince George's County supports. And then number 8 on that list is a new roadway connecting Maryland 197 near Bowie State University over to Maryland Route 3 in Crofton. So those are recommendations that council's made in the past, and we would reiterate those in this year's letter. A couple of other minor state projects. One is the sidewalk project along Maryland's 978, which is known as Hall Road, and we're trying to seek state funding to complete that sidewalk system. And then also there's a project to landscape the median in Maryland Route 197 north of Route 450, and that project has been on hold for lack of funding. In terms of county transportation projects, this list includes road projects as well as trail projects, and currently in the county CIP, there is funding to complete the Horsepen Park, which is adjacent to the WB&A trail. Also, the WB&A bridge over the Patuxent River is in the construction phase, although construction has not begun yet. Also, the county is advancing funding to do a bridge replacement project on Chestnut Avenue, just south of Old Town Bowie, in the coming year. In terms of design and engineering and right-of-way projects for county roads and facilities, Governor Bridge Road was a project that went through a design review, and that project is currently on hold. The Heritage Trail project is one that Park and Planning is trying to advance north of the WB&A to come up to the Bowie State Mark Station. The Collington Branch Stream Valley Trail, that's also related to the Hall Road Sidewalk project that I mentioned on Maryland 978, although that's the county piece there at Pointer Ridge Drive where the gazebo is located. Church Road improvements is also included in the county CIP every year, but there is no funding. All the funding is beyond 6 years. And then the last project in the county CIP is the US 301 improvements south of Maryland 214, which is also a continuing funding situation. In terms of recommendations for county transportation projects, the council has recommended adding Mitchellville Road between US 301 and Mount Oak Road to design and engineering. And we understand the county is looking at that. Adding Church Road in terms of construction and actually advancing that project beyond where it is currently in the CIP. We've been told that the county is going to conduct a feasibility study, which is a positive sign, in the next fiscal year. Number 3 there is to continue funding for Racetrack Road, CIP project between Idlewild Drive and Clearfield Drive. And that's a project that is moving through the county's process. And as far as the dates, we were given an update of that where they're going to complete the design by December of 2022 and begin construction shortly thereafter, around mid-2023. And that project should take about a year to complete. So that project is on target. And then the final project there is to add Old Stage Road. This is where Old Stage Road intersects with Church Road, and what we were told by the county was that if they do the feasibility study that I mentioned, that they could certainly look at this intersection where Old Stage Road meets Church Road. We have recommendations that we've made in the past concerning trail and sidewalk priorities, primarily up in the Old Town Bowie area, the Bowie Heritage Trail. The city is in the process of constructing a capital project that will extend the trail from Old Town Bowie over to Jericho Park, and we'd like to see the county take the leadership role in implementing a pedestrian underpass under Maryland Route 197 to connect Normal School Road to the Mark Station. Also, we've made the comments year after year that the walkable community strategy should be implemented in Old Town Bowie. And I know this is something that has been picked up with the MAPS group, which is the Green Team's multimodal transportation group. They did provide a comment letter, and this was one of the items in their comment letter trying to deal with safety issues in Old Town Bowie. The third item there under trail sidewalk projects is to examine the feasibility of a trail system using the old A44 right-of-way west of the city, west of the CSX railroad tracks, between the railroad tracks and Church Road. And then the fourth project is to look at a new pedestrian bridge over Maryland Route 214 in accordance with the citywide trails plan. And that project was funded for feasibility through a council government's grant this year, and we just completed the study in June. And we do feel that the project is feasible, and we'd like to partner with Park and Planning to make that happen and possibly apply for grants in future years. And finally, the transportation list includes transit priorities. There's a list here that council has identified in the past, the most prominent one being looking at the US 50 corridor as a priority transit corridor for future planning. The second bullet relates to trying to establish a route for the county bus system as a circulator route serving the Bowie Center, the Bowie Town Center, Covington, and Melford. And the county staff has indicated that they're doing a project now in another part of the county implementing what they call a new service, the PGC Link service, which is a micro transit service. And once they finish the pilot in Fort Washington, they intend to target an implementation in the Bowie area for fall of 2021. So that's something that may be moving ahead, which is really good news. The remaining priorities are just additional routes for the county bus system. We'd like to see additional service out here. The county really doesn't provide their own bus service out here. We do have a few WMATA routes, and we'd like to include any energy or any efficiency improvements to make those routes run better and serve our residents. And so those are the transportation priorities that council has established in the past, and our purpose tonight was to review those with you, to show you the letters that were sent last year, and based on council's comments tonight, we would prepare new letters to be sent this month to both the state and the county officials in time for the preparation of their own priority lists. So at this point, I can close and answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Minert. Lovely seeing you in person. You're looking very healthy and happy, and I suspect we're going to change that before the end of this evening. So thank you in advance.
Thank you.
Do any of my colleagues present have any questions for Mr. Minert? Councilmember Wolfley, take it away, sir.
As usual, thank you for great work. A couple of questions for you. Can you outline what the 197 landscaping entails? Does that also include median, incorporating a median between north and southbound lanes?
Yes, that was a project that was done probably 15 years ago as a concept project. We did work with the community and the neighborhoods along the corridor. The state was interested in trying to green up that median and actually create a landscape median from just north of Maryland 450 up to the Rockledge area. And so there was a focus on making sure there was adequate turning preserved at the certain crossovers, but the idea was to beautify the area and to remove some of the pavement.
And there's been no traction on that since then, correct?
Right. There have been funding difficulties for one reason or another over the years. One of the things that we really intended to get from that project was a measure of traffic calming to possibly slow the vehicle speeds down out there. And if you'll recall, at one point, the state did come along and stripe the edges of the roadway, which had not previously existed before. And that was one of the recommendations of that study. And it did achieve somewhat of a slowing of traffic when it was done. But we think that the median itself would actually help to reinforce that.
Yeah. I know it's a dangerous stretch of road. We've had fatality, at least one there, and I know there've been a number of other incidents where high speed was involved with people kind of racing down that road, thinking it was some kind of a freeway. Any estimate of current what that budget amount would have to be to cover that expense?
I don't recall there being a cost estimate ever done for it. It was just in the conceptual planning stages. And I think it's something that District 3 would have to implement on their own. So it's something that maybe we could ask them to prepare a cost estimate for us.
Because I think that, we have a lot of things on our priority list, and they seem to be these big, huge items which are much needed. I'm not saying that they're unnecessary, but I'm wondering if we can't also try and move along some of these, perhaps more attainable minor improvements in light of the fact that we just don't see a lot of traction on some of these big items. Next, so if we could add something about that, that would be great. The next question I have for you is the stretch of 450 over towards Maryland 3. From, I guess it's from the firehouse over, from Marketplace Shopping Center on over to Maryland 3, where we've got Hilltop Plaza, and then down the runway to Maryland 3. I know that there are two different projects that are associated with that. One is just the general widening, providing additional lanes, and then the other is the interchange plan, which has kind of a much, I think, even bigger price tag on that. And that includes, I think, flyover to get to the other side so that you can continue on 450 eastbound towards Annapolis. One of the things that has come to mind is that all of that is going to require some land acquisition for that interchange. And right now, that land is not developed. There is a, shall we say, a lull or a quiet period here for the development of that property. We've not heard much going on in terms of what the Jesuits intend to do. Is there anything that we could do to advance the cause of acquiring the property, or the state acquiring the property, not us, but the state acquiring the property so that they would have that available when and whenever it is that the funding materializes? I know it's not the usual order for the management of a project. I know that acquisition comes after the design phase and whatnot, but is there any precedent or any way you would see that we could advance that idea so that there's actually something available upon which to build such an interchange without pricing ourselves out of existence if somebody puts something in a development there?
Well, I know that the state does have a project in the program that I mentioned on US 301, the 301 corridor, and there was advanced land acquisition for properties in the 301 corridor. That's been probably their highest priority over the years, but they don't have anything like that that's area-wide or other specific roadways identified. So I think that it would be a difficult thing. I mean, we could certainly write a letter separately to the state asking them, pointing out the need and the reasons that you stated, and just see what their reaction is. But I think for all, as they've done with all their other projects, they've explained that there's just a funding shortage and there's not the ability to do those types of things now as much as we might want them.
Can we make that a part of our efforts here? Because I do think if we find ourselves waiting for the full project life cycle, we'll be boxed out of any alternatives and priced out of any alternatives. They'll come back and say, I got to redesign it all over again because, someone's put something on that property and it would be prohibitive to take it from them after being developed. Meanwhile, I suspect there's probably a willing seller, and it might be a good thing to try and advance now. So if your offices could work on that, that would be great. Next thing I have is a question on the Pope's Creek subdivision. My understanding is that the generating facilities that are done at Chalk Point and Morgantown are being slowly decommissioned, phased out, call it what you want, because they're coal-fired facilities. What can we do to advance the idea of putting a rails to trail program for that right of way? Ultimately, it would be a pretty nifty bike ride to be able to ride from the Potomac all the way to Old Town Bowie, where you'd get your refreshments and then bike back, or in my case, you'd have somebody drive you there, a couple miles away, and then you could pick you up on the way back, since I couldn't make that ride. But what can we do to advance that? What sort of path forward do we have on that?
When we became aware of that, council member, we contacted the Park and Planning Commission. They're currently in the process of starting up an update to the Master Plan of Transportation, which is countywide transportation plan. I've been told that they are certainly going to address that need in that plan over the next year, from a policy and implementation strategy standpoint, and as well as the Bowie Master Plan. When it comes out, the preliminary master plan is expected out in the next couple of months, and I believe it's going to be addressed somewhat in that plan. So I think those are going to provide the sort of the framework for going forward.
Can we have your offices put together a letter to Park and Planning advancing that idea, to see what to kind of get on the record, to help demonstrate some interest and support on that. And I'm not sure if there's anybody at the state level that would need to be engaged or not, or the county.
Right, I think the comment can be put into all of the letters, the letter that goes to the county executive, the letter that goes to the state secretary of transportation,
Beautiful.
as well as the Park and Planning Commission.
Wonderful, that'd be great. Because I do think that there's an opportunity here where we're getting rid of some dirty coal-fired plants, and I don't think there's any business case for any other use for that trail or that rail line down there. So maybe we could get CSX to make a nice, generous contribution to the community. Thank you.
And then this is also open for public hearing tonight. Before we get to any public comments we have, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues online. A few of them wrote to me that they don't have any questions. Mayor Adams, do you have anything on this item tonight, sir? Okay. Any of my other colleagues online have anything on this, sir? Hearing none, I got a couple questions. Oh.
No, none from me either, Councilmember Staff.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Gardner. All right, I got a couple quick things, but first I'm going to do public hearing. City Clerk, do we have anyone writing in on this tonight?
There were no comments received and no one signed up to speak this evening.
Okay. I do know that a couple letters were circulated to City Council members. I jotted down some questions based on one of the letters we received from Joshua Wooten of the city's Multimodal and Public Spaces Committee. And I'm going to go through those real quick. Mr. Minert, can you tell us, are you aware of the proposed changes to the 197 upgrade? I think we got something maybe a week or two ago from Senator Peters' office that they were, I don't know if they were going back to the design phase, but in any case, they were looking at some new changes to the concept. Are you aware of those and able to comment on those tonight?
Councilmember Estev, we've known for some time that the state has been re-examining the 30% design that they produced a couple years back. And the reason is that there's issues with stormwater management and the utilities within the corridor, and it's just been a very tricky thing to try to deal with. So I know that they went back to the drawing board, but then as you know, the funding was pulled because of the pandemic on a lot of state projects. There was a funding shortage, and so the design work that was on that new track essentially stopped. And at this point, their desire is, as soon as funding becomes available, to ramp up the design and engineering effort to get the plans to 30%, at which time they will have a community workshop or a community meeting to let people know and see and comment on that design idea. So I haven't seen it yet, but I know that they have been working on it, but at some point all of the work was just suspended, and that's where it stands now.
Those 197 public awareness meetings and feedback sessions are becoming a quadrennial tradition for residents in our neck of the woods. I've met a lot of fantastic people at those hearings, and it sounds like I'm going to continue making friends for a while. Okay. For 564 in Old Bowie, Main Street, it's also 11th in portions. The MAPS Committee has asked whether we've given any thoughts to asking the state formally to consider adding chicanes along 11th Street to create a both a visual and physical barrier to encourage slower speeds on 11th, and whether we'd given any thought to raised stripes in portions of Old Bowie on 564 to encourage reduced speeds.
There is a long-term plan that the city has for that area, and some of the aspects have been examined by the state. You know, a few years back they did include new signage and upgraded crosswalks, but it is an ongoing issue. I know that the group that wrote the letter that you're referring to asked to see if the county would include this in the Vision Zero effort, which is something that is a focus on pedestrian safety and basically reducing the amount of accidents. And so I think that would be a good thing to put into the letter going, especially to the county executive. It's the roadway itself, 9th Street, which is where the firehouse is and a lot of the old commercial uses. There was a study that the city had done many years ago that really recommended exactly what you're talking about, more on-street parking slots and bump outs to make it easier to get across the street. The other recommendation of that study was to realign 9th Street where the bridge crosses the Amtrak line to create a T intersection in front of the green, in front of the town green, which would cause vehicles to actually have to stop that were coming across the bridge going north. And so that would change the whole traffic characteristics there. So that's something that's a larger scale project. It's something that is on the books in terms of a study, and it's something that I think council favored trying to implement at some stage. But it's a project that really the state would have to fund. And we can raise those issues again in line with the comments from the group there.
If none of my colleagues object, I would absolutely like us to include Old Bowie being added to the Vision Zero program at the county level. And thank you for preempting me. That was one of my questions. And now, would adding Old Bowie to that Vision Zero collective, I don't know what it's called, would that in any way encourage or expedite any of these possible changes? Or is it more just kind of a symbolic gesture?
I really don't know. I would suspect it would have a positive effect on it.
It's not going to hurt, I guess. All right, fair enough. Let's see. I had a bunch of stuff. One other item was the pedestrian bridge over Route 214. I don't know what the status of that is, or whether that's something that we could include potentially in our letter. Do you have any thoughts or comments on that, Mr. Minert?
Yes, I think that's an important thing to mention to the county in the county letter, as well as in future budget letters to the county. I mentioned earlier we had a consultant that was funded through a COG grant. They did a very good, thorough feasibility study. They did involve the MAPS group and some of the field work and took some of their recommendations into consideration, and that we're really ready to look for a partnership with Park and Planning to take the lead, because that area is actually not in the city limits at this point to actually get across 214 and connect to the South Lake development. But it's something that we've found would be a feasible thing to approach. This study gives us the basis for moving into a design phase and trying to work out a partnership for the funding of that. So I'm optimistic that that's something that will really improve the conditions in that part of the area.
That's helpful. While we're on the topic of pedestrian bridges, who manages the pedestrian bridge that crosses 197 by the Towson Town Center?
The Bowie Town Center?
The Bowie Town Center. My head's in Baltimore County for reasons unexplained.
The state highway administration is ultimately responsible. District 3 handles handles structural maintenance and things like that. But I believe the city has an agreement to do routine maintenance if there's trash out there, or if there's screws coming loose or something. The city Parks and Grounds or the community services people will go out and attend to those things.
Okay. I did receive a question from a resident 2 weeks ago about structural maintenance in that particular pedestrian bridge. If there's any data or recent report or recent inspection that we have access to, if staff could make that available to us via email later, I'd appreciate that. Just to answer that one particular resident's questions while we were on the topic of pedestrian bridges. All right, so we'll include the 214 pedestrian bridge. Is there an update on the status of the WB&A Patuxent Bridge project? I know that was happening and then funding got pulled, which I assume was pandemic related. Do we have any updates on that particular project?
As far as I know, Councilman, the construction contract has been awarded, and it's only a matter of time for that project to get moving. So I think, I haven't been out there yet to see, but I think the group that wrote the letter said that for their observations it hasn't started yet, but Anne Arundel County is managing that construction contract. So I keep checking with my colleagues at Park and Planning, and they've told me that it hasn't started, but it's sort of imminent, and I'm pretty confident in the next few months we're going to see something started out there.
A matter of time is a very frightening phrase in the matter of public infrastructure these days. My only other question was related to the racetrack road improvements. I believe I heard back from the project managers at the county that this was now delayed by about 1.5 years or 2 years. Do we have any updates on that particular project?
Those were the dates that I had mentioned earlier. they mentioned.
I think you did address it earlier. I
Right, they
apologize.
mentioned that design would be completed by the end of 2022.
Okay.
And they'd go right into construction, which they assume they're going to have the funding to do because this is it's a live project. And that they would expect construction to start by mid-2023 and take about a year to complete.
Now, I suspect I know the answer to this question, but I'm assuming that a part of this redesign is going to involve taking down that terrible, terrible rusted fence along the pedestrian trail there on Racetrack.
I haven't studied the plan that closely, but I believe that's part of the upgrading of the whole thing.
Yeah, they could literally just take that fence down and fill 6 potholes, and my residents would be very happy, so.
I can get back to you on the fence question. I just don't know off the top of my head.
Not a problem. And actually, I need to write the county about the potholes, because those could be filled sooner. I think those were the only major ones that I had. I really appreciate your work on this, as always, Mr. Minert. Do any of my colleagues have any follow-up questions? Nothing? Okay. This is eligible, for action this evening. Do I have a motion on the city transportation priority lists?
I would like to move to approve.
Second?
Moved by Councilmember Wolfley, seconded by Councilmember Harrison. Any questions on the motion?
And I should actually make it a move to approve with the consideration of the comments we've had this evening on such matters as the 197 North, the acquisition of the interchange at 450 and Maryland 3, rails to trails, Old Bowie Vision 0, and the pedestrian bridge, and I think that's everything.
I think that's everything. Councilmember Harrison
Second.
still seconding that. Thank you.
You covered it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No questions on the restated motion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
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 All opposed signal by saying nay.
Aye.
All opposed signal by saying nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Moving right along, staff recommendation on the pilot workforce training request for proposal. I'll turn it over to city staff.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council. Daniel Mears, Assistant City Manager. In May, the City Council had directed the staff to issue an RFP for a pilot workforce development program. We did that and issued an request for proposals on May 25th with responses due by June 25th. We had quite a bit of interest in this. We sent out 67 full RFP packages to interested parties, and ultimately on June 25th we received 10 proposals back. We wanted to speak with you this evening after staff had gone through and reviewed the proposals. We decided we needed to get a little bit more direction from the City Council in regards to this program. Through the evaluation of the RFPs, we found that the responses that we received were not fully responsive to all of the elements contained in the RFP. There was an example of several of the elements that were not included in terms of the requested elements. No list or references to experience of staff proposed to be assigned to the project. There were not plans included in regards to public outreach or how the program would be marketed to recruit participants in the program or even retain the trainees. We did not have any statements in regards to how they would identify the skill gaps located in our local labor market for the programs so that we'd be meeting the needs of our regional employers and our local employees as well. And we also did not have anything contained in the proposal describing how they would connect the trained residents with city and regional employers that have the need for these skilled employees. So with that said, we had taken a lot of the feedback from the City Council in regards to what you were looking for in the workforce development pilot program to include in the RFP, and before making a full recommendation in regards to what we could do, we wanted to get some direction from the City Council. We did have
as I mentioned, 10 respondents. 3 of the respondents seem to have a broader base of available training that they could offer to our constituents. They included ASM Educational Center. They're utilizing the Udemy platform, Coursera, and Carasoft Technology Corporation, who is using the LinkedIn Learning platform associated with that. Since this is a pilot program, we wanted to get a little bit more direction from the City Council so we could ensure that we were meeting your goals with this project. And what we would like to do is to contact the firms and over the next few weeks find out how they could address these issues that we had raised in the RFP that we didn't really get answers for. And we wanted to have some discussion with the City Council tonight to see if you were comfortable with these responses and moving forward, given the lack of responsiveness in the RFPs, or if we need to do something else other than negotiate with the top few firms that we have.
I appreciate the summary, Mr. Mears. I'm going to turn it over. Oh, was there something else? Sorry.
No, we're good.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mears. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. I believe Councilmember Ndibumade was the one who initiated this particular effort. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or thoughts on this?
Councilmember Steph.
All you. Go ahead, Councilmember Ndibumade.
Thanks so much. Well, first off, Daniel, thank you so much for that elaborate, kind of detailed breakdown and overview, and appreciate Al and staff for really looking into this when we first brought it forward a couple of months ago and really working diligently to quickly put an RFP out there and just kind of like really figure out this for our residents. This is really great. I think, so when I look at the evaluation, and one company I'm going to refrain on commenting on because it's a conflict of interest. So I'm just going to state that up front. Carasoft Technology Corporation, because they're contracting, they're a prime contractor and they have a subprime relationship with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft. I will not comment on that company at all because I work for Microsoft. So I will only be commenting on the other 2 because they have no relation to Microsoft. So I'm going to abstain from that company entirely in judging them and asking them any questions. So I just want to put that up front. But just on the I just want to comment on the evaluation that staff had put up. It says on number 1, no list of reference or experience to staff. It says no list or reference to quote unquote experience of staff proposed to be assigned to the project. Then it says number 2, no statement of methods planned for public outreach / direct marketing program to recruit and retain trainees. Then it says number 3, no statement on how they plan to identify the skills gap in the labor market where City of Bowie and regional employers need employees. And then it says number 4, no proposal plan describing methods to connect successfully trained residents with city and regional employers needing newly skilled workers. Now, because I'm going to abstain from commenting on Carasoft, I do believe that the only person that answered 2, 3, and 4 was Coursera, just based off of, and I'm going to just give you quick insight. I do believe no company answered none of the 2 that I looked at answered number 1. So actually they did. They actually did answer that. But I do believe 2, 3, and 4, the only person that answered that was Coursera. So if you go to page, the public outreach and direct marketing, number 2 that they mentioned, if you go to page you look at Coursera's proposal and you go to page, I'm scrolling, sorry. If you go to the page, this one, so there's a paragraph in here that directly addresses what the actual implementation, all of that will look like, but it also addresses the partnership that they would have with staff to kind of mobilize this proposal and how they would engage, how they would work with staff and partner with communications and things like that to be able to work on the implementation of the public outreach. So they actually did talk about that in their proposal. I don't know what type of detail that, many were looking for, but it does say in here a clear plan. I think it's on page 11, or no, sorry, not page 11, but page here it is, 7, it does say a clear plan on how they would, partner with the city. Then they also said that they would leverage their own social media and their own communications avenues to get the word out there and the reach, and also help develop social media content and the assets that would be needed to market this program. So I don't necessarily know about that number 2, because they actually did address that in terms of like recruiting and recruiting talent. I don't necessarily know what we mean by retain, because if this is a pilot program that looks like it's a 12-month scope, I don't necessarily know what we would be looking for an outside company to retain based off of past 12 months. I don't know how that makes a ton of sense. Then on number 3, when it says how they plan to identify the skills gaps, it looks like most of these companies did provide very detailed outcome on how they would identify the skills gap through actually whether that's assigned people that they would essentially assign to be able to kind of go and evaluate the current trends and the actual like labor market at the time and how it pertains to the actual data and the residents of the city of Bowie. I know that Coursera addressed that actually. If you look at the same thing on page 6, they actually addressed it there too. So I don't necessarily know what more information we'd be looking for there. And then it says connect successfully trained residents with city and regional employers. To my understanding, Coursera was the only person to outline that. However, there's a caveat. It did say that it said that residents who complete the Google Gateway Scholars Program that are very specific to certain certificates, which are 7 to be precise, 7 certificates, will have access to the 150 employers who are in 150 regional employers, regional and national employers that are based in a part of their consortium, to be able to connect them with job seekers who are looking not job seekers, but employers who are looking to hire those job seekers. So I'm a bit confused on what it is that we might be looking to learn, because a lot of the things that we're saying there were no statements on, they actually are included in the RFP for many of these companies. But I'm just a bit confused there on like what it might be more that we're looking for there. Not saying that we need to vote on this tonight at all. I definitely think that if staff needs more information and would like to do more due diligence, we can never say no to that. I think that's a great idea. Please feel free to do more due diligence if that's what my colleagues agree with. But I think that I would be looking to understand what exactly do we feel is missing, because a lot of the things that we're saying, it says no statements. There are statements that are listed in the RFP, at least the ones I read that were posted on the internet. There are statements there. So I'd just be looking to understand a little bit more about that. Personally, I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily know that I am a big fan of the company ASM Educational Center. The only reason why I say that I don't know that I'm a fan of that, and this is just more for me and my colleagues, it looks like they emphasize a ton on quantum computing, right? And quantum computing is not necessarily the only skill that every resident in the city of Bowie is interested in. And so their program has a huge emphasis on tech, and tech isn't the only thing that is going to be required for this next, kind of workforce development or labor force or skills gap that we're kind of approaching in the world. So I think that they're great, but because their platform is through Udemy and they're more so emphasizing a lot of the tech skills, I don't know how much of that would be to how much of that would be to a disservice to the rest of the population that might be looking to learn skills in education or sales or hospitality or manufacturing or things like that it looks like Coursera or whatever others are offering. So I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that particular response, only because it seems heavily skewed towards quantum computing, and I don't necessarily think it's as competitive as some of the other responses. But those are just like my preliminary thoughts. I'm sure I'll have more as my colleagues kind of share theirs. So thanks.
Councilmember Ndebumadu is one of our resident technologists, and so I personally defer a great deal to her expertise on these matters. Councilmember, following your line of inquiry, would you have any objections to us directing staff to follow up with the top 3 respondents for the additional matters?
Oh, not at all. I
Okay.
think more due diligence can't hurt us, so not at all.
All right, I appreciate that, Councilmember. Do any of my other colleagues joining us virtually tonight have any additional thoughts or questions on this matter?
Councilmember Stebb, I'd like to say something.
All you, Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you very much. One, I wanted to thank staff for doing what they've done on this project, and but above all, Councilmember Endeavor Madu. I appreciate her desire and concern to help many of our residents who are looking to making a transition from an existing profession to something different. A number of residents have approached me and said that they were looking to making a change simply because they didn't want to return to what they were doing pre-COVID. So giving them the opportunity or a leg or bridge to making advancement or changes in occupation, it strengthens our community. It definitely strengthens our workforce. And I just wanted to say, I support this project as a whole, not one particular vendor over the other. So I will just wanted to say I commend Councilmember Endeavor Madu on her efforts of getting this done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Gardner. Any other questions or thoughts from any of my colleagues? Councilmember Wolfley.
Just a quick comment. I'll be abstaining from the vote just on the potential for a conflict of interest with one of the vendors.
With so many council members employed for so many different major institutions in the area, it's a wonder we can vote on anything sometimes. Thank you for that, Councilmember Wolfley. Any other thoughts or questions from any of my colleagues? Going once. Hearing none. Staff, do you need a formal vote tonight, or do you just need us to kind of nod in general approval of you going to the top three and following through with your additional questions?
General consensus is satisfactory.
Have you obtained general consensus?
Councilmember.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Please go ahead. I apologize.
No, I will let you move on. I think the reality is that I think all of our colleagues and the staff have done a good job, and I think you're absolutely right. What we can do is get more information and include all of those top three and take a look at it and come back and then have an opportunity for us to take a closer look at what we're doing.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Staff, all good on direction?
All good, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, moving on to the next item. Discussion of the state's attorney's Stop the Violence campaign event. I'm going to turn this over to our colleague, Councilmember at Large, Ingrid Harrison.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Stev. Briefly, I'm just going to give some background and an event summary, and
I apologize, Councilmember. Just a reminder to all of our friends at home to put themselves on mute, please. I apologize, Councilmember. Please go ahead.
No problem. So I've been working with the State's Attorney's Office, Honorable Aisha Braveboy, on a community fun day in the city of Bowie, regarding and in partnership with her for her Our Streets, Our Future initiative. And basically, this event will bring awareness to gun violence. And the COVID-19 pandemic has intensified the impact of gun violence throughout the United States as homicidal and unintentional shootings have increased by record levels. Hate crimes, domestic violence, and accidental shooting numbers have increased, as well as access to guns. From July 21st to August 1st, Prince George's County detectives have investigated 11 deadly shootings that left 11 people dead. Bowie has not seen an increase in gun violence per se. However, it is important that we stand against it and take a proactive approach in prevention within our county. The Community Fun Day, hosted by the City of Bowie in partnership with the Prince George's County State's Attorney's Office around their initiative, Our Streets, Our Future, is designed to raise awareness around the issue of gun violence and promote unity and healing by bringing together the community and our public safety officials. The event will help to reinforce Bowie's community policing efforts through informal interaction with residents. There will be speakers, music, informational tables, giveaways, food, and family fun. This will be a great opportunity for the community to come together and engage with our public safety officials in an informal setting. I've already provided the event name. Again, the event type is a partnership with the State's Attorney's Office, a family event. The budget would be about $3,000 coming from contingency. Location, Allen Pond Park at the amphitheater. Number of guests anticipated, about 200 people. The date is Thursday, August 26, 2021, and the time would be from 5:30 to about 8 p.m. We'd have several informational tables, including several departments, including our own police department, the Department of Family Services, Prince George's County, Employ Prince George's, our Health Department, Department of Corrections, our State's Attorney's Office, Prince George's County Office of Community Relations, and a Mental Health Therapy Counseling Services table as well. We're also requesting the use of tables and chairs from the city and perhaps some assistance with setup, if that's possible. To promote the event, we would ask that it be promoted through all relevant promotional channels through the City of Bowie and the State's Attorney's Office to ensure we reach our specific target audience within Bowie and the local area. And the State's Attorney's Office will create the flyer, and promotion will begin as soon as we approve the project. Our proposed budget, as I said, is about $3,000. We had the food at about $10 per person, a DJ at about $500. I've invited the Foundation of Advancement of Music and Education and provide $500 for their youth band to provide entertainment. Giveaways at $0. Sponsorship would be requested from local Bowie businesses. And as I said, the total budget request would be about $3,000. Our program would include our mayor and the council members. We'd have an invocation from a local pastor. Our occasion would come from our state's attorney, remarks by Chief Neske, Deputy Chief Preston, and other public safety officials. I'd like to invite our Bowie Youth Council and other youth to make comments. Performances, as I mentioned, from Fame and others, if invited, and closing remarks. We'd also have activities like music, obstacle course, water balloon throws, and other as recommended. So I ask for, first I'll ask if there are any questions.
So first of all, thank you so much for this very detailed memo, council member, which is both very much on brand and incredibly helpful. So thank you for that. One quick question just for me. So the city would be providing the $3,000 and the other items, just to be clear?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. I suspect staff are going to probably have questions first, and so I will defer to staff first and then go to the rest of my colleagues for any additional questions.
Well, Mr. Estev, Councilwoman Harrison was good enough to coordinate with me on this issue, so I'm aware of the details of it. And the staff is prepared to support it if you all make it an official event.
Perfect. No issues on staff's end then?
No.
Okay. I'll move this over to our colleagues. Do any of my colleagues have questions or thoughts? Councilmember Wolfley.
No, I just thank you for the initiative on this. I think it's a great opportunity to get the word out. So kudos to you and the rest of the team working on it, and thanks for staff as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you also to Chief Neske, who I've been working with on it as well. So are there any other questions?
Anything from any of our friends joining remotely?
No, Councilmember Estev. I want to thank Councilwoman Harrison and the Public Safety Committee in bringing this forward, and I look forward to participating, and always welcome the State's Attorney Aisha Braveport to Bowie. She's always welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Any of our other colleagues? Hearing none, I'll just add a huge thanks to Councilmember Harrison for taking on this initiative. We'll all be there wearing our orange. I'll just say on a personal note, at least up until 2020, I believe that roughly statistically 2/3 of all gun deaths in America were suicides, which is an unfortunate reality about that particular statistic. I myself have dealt very publicly with some serious mental health challenges over the years. It is a lifelong battle. And so I just want to say on a personal note, thank you for taking the initiative on this, and especially thank you for including the mental health component on that, because that is unfortunately a huge part of the reality of gun deaths in our country. So thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing. And I'll also email this memo out to the rest of the council, since I had paper copies for them tonight, but I'll email it out to them.
Not a problem at all. Without any further questions, do I hear a motion to formally direct staff on this, or do you have the direction you need, or do you need a formal motion? Let's do a formal motion then. Do I hear a motion then?
Sure, yes, I moved that the council approve the request as presented, with also the understanding the event details may change, however, the budget will not be increased, and the event may be canceled due to any county, city mandates due to COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations.
Second.
And I'd like to second that.
The move has been motioned and seconded. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, please signal by saying nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Moving forward, adoption of Resolution R-53-21, granting the Prince George's County Memorial Library System Foundation funding for additional laptops for the Bowie and South Bowie libraries. I believe this one is for city staff?
No, that resolution came from the Mayor Pro Tem, I believe.
Oh, I apologize. Mayor Pro Tem Boafo, are you prepared to discuss item D tonight, Resolution R-53-21?
Yes. And I apologize to everybody out there for the voice. I am feeling under the weather, but I'm going to pass this along also to Shelley O'Brien, who's the Director of Development and Engagement for the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. But one of the big things here is that I think all of us know how important having access to the internet and connectivity is. In this pandemic, we saw a lot of folks, even in our own community, struggle through just not having the access in their homes. And it's not really necessarily a wealth thing, right? It's just really about access. So I'll let Shelley O'Brien take it from here. But, I do think this is something that we should be doing as we're heading back into the school year. And there'll be kids, a lot of folks, both old and young, who are going to want some level of connectivity. And so I think this is a great opportunity to get people engaging with our library system in a unique way, but more importantly, it's a good touch for us and for our residents who may not have those connectivity issues. So, Ms. O'Brien, I'll defer to you.
Oh, well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Boffo and Mayor Adams and the council members. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time this evening. As you might know, the libraries nowadays are more than just books. In fact, we're the way that communities access computers and the internet. And we've been doing it, especially at the Bowie Library, for over 25 years, and more recently with the South Bowie Library. And as Councilmember Boafo said, that we really realized in the last year and a half that people need additional laptops, they need additional access, and this access needs to be beyond the hours that our building is open. And so what we are looking at is establishing a program called Online to Go. It right now is in the pilot stage, where we have it at 7 libraries in Prince George's County. And I checked before this meeting, right now we have 230 Chromebooks in circulation. And each one of these Chromebooks has a Khajiit in it. Khajiit is a brand name that is a company that provides internet access, and it's primarily for libraries and educational institutions. And Khajiit then uses Verizon as our preferred carrier, and the library accepts the charges for this. So this would be free of charge to anyone to use with a library card. So starting in the fall, in just a couple weeks, we're going to expand this pilot to all 19 branches. And as noted in the resolution, we have received some initial funding from a private source, the Popp Fund, and that has provided us with computers, averaging about 45 computers for each one of the 19 branches. And then through the the ARPA funding, the American Rescue Plan Act, we received money from the Maryland State Library to hire a staff member for 1 year to manage the program. As you can imagine, all of these computers and the management of it is quite a task. So what we're looking for today is additional resources specifically for the Bowie and South Bowie Library, and funding at $75,000 to bring an additional 100 to 125 Chromebooks in. This will also pay for 2 years of internet access, and then we will continue and find other sources of funding to continue the internet access. But we really believe this is going to have a significant impact on the digital divide, and we know that this is a priority for the city of Bowie, and it is also a major priority for us at the library. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. O'Brien and Councilmember Boafo, or Mayor Pro Tem Boafo, for bringing this forward. If there are no other comments from anyone else, I'll turn this over to my colleagues for any questions or thoughts. Councilmember Harrison.
Hi. Thank you so much, and very good to see you, Shelley. Thanks for being here.
Yes, nice to see you.
My question is, and I believe we talked about this when we had our one-on-one conversation, but did you have any further data specifically on the city of Bowie and the needs here in our city?
Yeah, we estimate, and this comes from information from the FCC that you also have on your City of Bowie website, that it's approximately 3,000 people that are without broadband in their homes. And so that's why, one of the reasons why we are recommending 100 computers. We think that that will be enough to meet the needs within the city of Bowie, considering that we will also have an allotted 45 computers at each location. That should be a good rotation for every 3 to 6 weeks.
Thank you. So would any of the funding from the pull-up fund be able to support the 100 computers?
Yes, it is already supporting 830 that we have countywide. And so that is where I'm coming up with the 45 per branch.
Right. So
40, it's technically 40. Yeah.
Right. So in our information tonight, it says $75,000. What would that money be used for?
That would then buy another 100 to 125 Chromebooks and 2 years of internet access from Verizon for those Chromebooks. If I will say that we have multiple avenues that we're pursuing at the moment. We have applied with the FCC for additional funding from ARPA. And so if that happens to come through, we would then reinvest the money into additional Chromebooks for the area.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I apologize. Councilmember Wolfley.
Thank you. So quick follow-up question. So we know we're going to be getting about 45 for each of the locations. That's about 90 for the city of Bowie. My personal feeling is I don't know that we really have a lot of need in terms of people who are, unequipped with high speed. I know that you quoted the 3,000. I'm not sure that we really have true insights into that. And in fact, I'm sure that a lot of those people just choose to use their phones as their primary device. I know plenty of people who don't bother with either a television, cable subscription, or even home internet service if they use their device as their primary connection. So given where we have, is there an opportunity for us to look at the take-up rates once we deploy these first 90 computers that are going to be coming through, and then adding more if the demand is proven? Because I suspect that the demand will be greater elsewhere in the community rather than here.
Yes, we are expecting the demand to be greater in other parts of the county. But I will say that if you've ever tried to do a job search or apply for a job on your phone, or if you don't have access to a laptop that is fairly new, it's very difficult. And that's what we're seeing this as part of a way that we can assist workforce development. And I'll use another example is that the library, if you have a library card, you can access LinkedIn Learning for free right now. And so having laptops is going to be able to give the people in your city the ability to access these classes immediately. But I'm happy to look at the take-up rate too. I'd be happy to do that.
No, I understand the value. I'm just not sure that there's a demonstrated need for the devices in our community. I mean, I think it's a great program, and I think it may be quite useful elsewhere, but I'm not sure that it's proven in our area, and I hate to spend money on something that may not be needed.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilmember Wolfley. Ms. O'Brien, just a quick question.
Sure.
And I apologize if this was answered earlier. If I walk into a Bowie library, either the one off of 450 or the one in South Bowie now, there are desktop computers at the library that are available to the public, correct?
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and having been to the library a few times, I know that it's unusual for all the desktop computers to be in use. There's always a few that tend to be free. Could you talk about the existing desktop computer availability? Is this program simply replacing that in any way, or complementing that availability, or how does that work?
Yeah, so our IT department keeps very close monitoring of the computer usage at the libraries. So if you go to, for example, the Bowie Library, you will see more desktops than at South Bowie because of the need. And one of the things I'm very proud of is that we try to do everything we can to keep it to where during busy times, there's 1 or 2 stations open and available. And we keep monitoring that very closely. You'll see us constantly moving furniture and the computers in and out. Where we see the need at South Bowie is people bring their own devices, but then access our free Wi-Fi in the building. But we see this as in addition to the current services that we provide, and will adjust accordingly. I'm guessing that we will not be buying any desktops anytime soon. Just that this is kind of the move of the future. We're kind of moving into having more laptop access.
So then, and I appreciate your answer to that, Ms. O'Brien. Could you walk me through the advantage to the laptop then, as opposed to the existing desktop, just so I understand?
Sure. So obviously, library hours are very limited. Right now, for example, we're open Tuesday through Saturday. Really, I think it's like 10 to 5 right now. And Thursday nights are when we stay open. So if you have a current job or work until 6 o'clock, it's very difficult right now that we just have one night open and Saturday. So this provides people the ability to take a laptop home with them, access the internet, do a job search, check on their children's homework and the status of their schooling, take a LinkedIn Learning class or a class at the community college. And so it just opens up a whole world of opportunities. During the pandemic, we saw a lot more people trying to access information about where to find, all sorts of different resources, apply for unemployment, things like that.
I appreciate that. And then you mentioned earlier that if the city of Bowie is unable to provide the $75,000 at this time, that there are alternative sources you're also pursuing simultaneously for funds?
Well, the alternative sources that we're looking at are to specifically pay for the internet access for the Verizon bill. We've realized through this process that the actual laptops are fairly inexpensive. what the great cost is accessing the internet and Verizon. And that is where we are looking at different avenues.
Understood. Do any of my other colleagues joining remotely have any questions or thoughts on this matter?
Yes, Councilmember Staff.
Councilmember Gardner, all you, sir.
Yes, thank you again. Thank you, Ms. O'Brien, for coming out tonight and not coming out, but joining us virtually, as I am as well. I really want to thank you really very much for your presentation and the information that you provided today. Regretfully, I cannot see using taxpayer dollars for the $75K going to the library system. And I want you to understand why. Our residents are already, as you know, pay taxes. And their taxes, they make a contribution to the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. And I, if there in fact were a need here in the immediate Bowie community, city of Bowie, municipal city of Bowie, then I would see to where there could be an advantage. But I just, at this present time, unless there's something that I'm missing, I just can't at this present time ask to have our taxpayers make a $75,000 contribution to a system that they already contribute to. And that's just my opinion. And I'm if there's something I'm missing, then by all means, take me there. I'm open to hearing it because it's my goal, and I know the goal of my colleagues here to provide services, needed services to our residents, and being smart when it comes to spending their money. So if I'm missing anything, then by all means, walk me down that path, and I'll join you.
Sure. Thank you very much for your comments. And I totally understand. You will find no organization more efficient and more caring about tax dollars than the library system. I think what we're looking at is pre-pandemic, we know that 3,000 people in the city of Bowie did not have access to broadband. And I personally know that if I was laid off from my job, the first thing that would probably go would be the $75 I spend a month on Verizon or Comcast. It is a burden. And if you also have a situation where you do not have a current laptop or access to a computer, this can be, several $100s for you on a good day. And so we do know that we do know through people coming into the library that they are accessing our computers. We absolutely know that. And that is showing us that they do not have an alternative. Because if you did have access to internet at home, you would be using it instead of coming in and, right now, especially with our restricted hours. So we do believe that there is a need in the city of Bowie. We also believe this because your city has made bridging the digital divide a priority. And we agree with that. And we think that the pandemic has just expanded that divide, not brought it closer together.
And you know what? And definitely closing the digital divide is a priority, I would say, of this council. And definitely of mine personally. I just don't know if this is the resource to use to do so with. And I do know that many of the internet providers or cable television providers, Comcast, Verizon, RCN, a number of them, and Cox, across the nation actually suspended collection of debt unless an individual was paying, but it was a part of their grant program. Because of the pandemic, they understood that financially families were strapped, so they did not suspend services for cable, for broadband, or our telephone services during this period of time because of that. In fact, we hear even that the city of Bowie did not or have not suspended water usage because we know our residents need, of course, to wash their hands to prevent the spread of the virus. So a number of communications companies, that internet service providers, cable television providers, basically forgave payments or suspended payments, and because of the pandemic. So I know, you know, those companies such as a Verizon, they have access or ability to do that. I just personally just don't want to see taking residential dollars to contribute again, unless again I thank you for taking me down that road. And taking me down that pathway again. I just got there, and I don't see a where I could, you know, genuinely and be able to turn and look at my resident and say, hey, I gave $75,000 of your money for this purpose. And then during the pandemic, people are less likely to be in the libraries. I thought many of them were closed. I guess I'm not certain.
Oh, we're reopened. We're reopened, sir.
Okay, you are reopened. Well, that's good. That is good that you're reopened, and I'm sure you're getting the word out to people, letting them know that you are open for service. And you are very professional and pleasant in your delivery tonight, and refreshing to see you coming. I hear your compassion for your consumer, which are those who visit the library system. I just have to look out for my consumer as well, and my customer are the residents of Bowie, and I have to be cautious how I spend their money. But thank you very much again.
I respect your comments. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gardner, thank you so much. Do any of my other colleagues joining us remotely have any thoughts? Councilmember Boafo, I know this was your initiative. I'm happy to defer to you.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Thank you.
Councilmember Steph. And thank you for taking over tonight while some of us suffer here at home. A couple thoughts. A few of us went on a lot of different school tours before the pandemic, right? And one of the things that we heard from principals and from teachers alike were that there were so many kids in our own community, right? And I was even shocked to hear this myself, who just didn't have access to the internet, right? And in one school in particular, I won't call out, but was in District 1. It's a pretty affluent, school that, that's a problem in, right? And this was before the pandemic, right? And now I think we're in a different place. And I think two things I just want to make clear here, right? One is that the chances that, I know we all have either family members or close friends or constituents who have been going through tough times during this pandemic. But a lot of times those folks aren't the ones who are going to be emailing us. One, because they lack the access to the internet, right? And B, for a lot of folks in our community, we know who our citizens are. They take personal pride in their jobs, right? And so the minute somebody loses access to the internet or never had it to begin with, you can see why they don't step out and say, hey, this is what I need. Our people are very prideful people, as they should be. And a lot of folks have gone through stuff in the pandemic. So I would argue the ascension, the thought that, it's not, it's wasting constituent dollars here. In fact, I think we're being proactive in our analysis here and saying that no matter what happens in the future with this pandemic, because as we're seeing, we're in a different space here as Delta variants rise. But no matter what happens, we're making that investment, right? Our IT committee said that we were going to do that. We as a council said that we're going to do that. And this is the one example to do that. Now, it sounds like members have questions about the data and et cetera, et cetera. And I think we could talk about that. And I have no problem pushing this off the agenda until members' needs are met. But I do want to take a formal vote at some point because I think this sends a signal, not just to the people in our community, but to the people throughout the county, that the city of Bowie is actually committed to addressing this digital issue.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Boafo. I appreciate your comments. Do any of my other colleagues remotely have any additional thoughts? Hearing none. Getting a sense of the room, I get the impression that there may be a consensus to table this item until our first meeting in September to give us some more opportunities to get additional data from Ms. O'Brien in the library system. If there are no other questions or thoughts, I'm willing to entertain a motion along those lines.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Wolfley, seconded by Councilmember Harrison. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
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 All opposed, please signal by saying nay. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. O'Brien, thank you so much for joining us this evening. My colleagues and I will be following up over the course of the next month, and we will see you at our first meeting in September. Madam City Clerk, do we have the exact date for that meeting? And I apologize. We have the exact date for that meeting. I've just forgotten it.
It's Tuesday, September 7th because of Labor Day.
So, Ms. O'Brien, that is Tuesday, September the 7th, because of Labor Day. Thank you so much. Moving along to our final item tonight under new business.
Councilmember Staff?
Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am.
No, I apologize.
No,
Can
no,
I
go
just
ahead.
say one thing real
Yes, please,
quick before you move to the next item?
Absolutely.
It's been brought to my attention that someone had questions regarding the Community Fund Day, Our Streets, Our Future event, partnership with the state's attorney regarding the fact that this is an election season, and there were some hesitation around any campaigning happening, and I can assure you that that is not something that will be allowed during this event. So I'm asking that there will be no campaign efforts happening during this event.
Thank you so much for raising that. And actually, that's a really great point Councilmember Harrison raises. On all city, and I only recently learned this is not the case in all municipalities in Maryland, but on all City of Bowie properties, there is an explicit prohibition against political campaigning. And I believe, and the city staff can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that includes Allen Pond Park. Well, staff will get back to me on that. But just as a general rule, political campaigns are prohibited on city property in the city of Bowie, so none of that. All right, thank you so much, Councilmember Harrison. Moving on to item E, discussion on Prince George's County Council Redistricting Committee proposal. I take it this is city staff?
This is Councilmember Indebamato brought this to our attention. Joe is here to answer any questions about it.
Not a problem. Councilmember Ndebumadu, if you raise this and are prepared to discuss it, we will hear you now, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you. I appreciate you. Good evening, everyone. I had placed this item on the agenda just a couple of days ago after Councilwoman Harrison and I had received a number of comments from several residents along a couple of different neighborhoods within my district about some potential redistricting that's being proposed in at the county level. So just to give a brief background, I just want to give people a brief background and a little bit more context so that everybody kind of knows what we're discussing and what we're talking about. So basically, the neighborhoods of Collington Station, the manors at Collington Station, and Hamptons at Woodmore have been proposed by the redistricting committee to be redistricted from District 4, County District 4, to District 6. A number of those residents had started sending emails over the last couple of days when that proposal was first made, when they were first made aware at that proposal during the commission hearing, during the redistricting commission hearing, and they basically reached out to express their disagreement and discontent with being redistricted into a different county council, not county council, but county district. What that essentially means for those particular areas and those particular constituents, it means that instead of having one county council member representing the city of Bowie, essentially what the redistricting commission is proposing is that we would have two separate county council members representing the city of Bowie. So you would have a pocket of District 4 that would belong to County District 6, and you would have the rest of the city of Bowie belonging to District 4. Now, depending on how you look at that, that could be a significant challenge for a lot of residents. So I put this on the agenda. Because I wanted us as a council to discuss the possibility of initiating a letter to be sent to the redistricting commission as well as our county council to basically just kind of express our support for our residents' wishes, which is to stay within one district in District 4 and not be redistricted to District 6. Also, just to give a brief background, 10 years ago, this same idea was proposed on redistricting. It did not pass because many of those residents, as they are now, sent a number of different letters and a number of different outreach methods, basically expressing their discontent and disagreement with being redistricted into a different district. And so I just want to make it very clear for my colleagues and a lot of my residents that are watching, I support keeping all of District 4 in County District 4. And I, support sending a letter to the County Council to make sure that they understand. I've spoken to several delegates who I know are also in agreement. And I was on a call, we had a homeowners association call with Councilwoman Harrison, Delegate Watson, Delegate Holmes, who equally expressed their support to advocate to make sure that our county council understands that we are standing by our residents and advocating for our residents to be able to stay in the county District 4 as opposed to be redistricting to District 6. And I also spoke to our county council member Todd Turner as well, who also understood the concerns and understood and also supported that as well. So I think what I'm asking for today and what I'd like us to discuss is the possibility to be able to send a letter to support our residents and just make sure that the city is also advocating for the residents who are consistently reaching out and sending, honestly, hundreds of emails to express their desire to stay in District 4. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Ndibumadu. I'm going to give my colleagues an opportunity to weigh in on this. I do have a sense of the room, though, that going into this, that there's probably consensus around a letter to the county that suggests or indicates our preference for keeping all of Bowie neighborhoods in District 4. So that being said, I'm going to turn this over to my colleagues if they have any thoughts or questions on this. Councilmember Harrison, did you have something?
I think Henri, Councilmember Gardner had something. I say
I
something.
apologize.
Yeah.
Councilmember Gardner, do you have something for us, sir?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Please go ahead,
Thank you, Councilmember Staff and Councilwoman Harrison. Thank you very much. I actually do have a concern about this. My concern is I was a part of it 10 years ago when the decision on the vote. And Councilwoman Ndibumadu, I believe you may have it just a bit the opposite. I believe, and I could be wrong, and maybe the city clerk or the city manager, someone, or staff who was around at that time could correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that the council was asked to putting all of Bowie in District 4 when previously Bowie was in District 4 and in District 6. And it was asked to merge everything into District 4. And we went from 2 districts to having 1 district. And the opposite did not pass. Correct me, staff, if I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Gardner, from the information that I received, you're correct, it was 4 and 6 at one time, and it was just, and then all of Bowie, all the incorporated city of Bowie was put into District 4. And now our residents are asking that it continues, that it stays contiguous, and that all of the city of Bowie stays in District 4.
Apologies, sorry, I did state that wrong. You're right, Councilmember Gardner, and thank you for correcting Councilwoman Harrison. Sorry about that, I did state that wrong.
No.
Yes,
No.
sorry about that.
No problem. And with that being said, I just want to ask this question. We've had a number of issues lately, especially when it comes to development, to go to the county council, and we've lost. For instance, we had a number of residents that were against the airport. In fact, the airport development that's happening with St. John's Properties. there were a number of residents who were against this, as well as council members. In fact, I do believe, Mr. Mayor, I was told that you had attended one of the events, along with Millie Hall and other residents of Whitmore Highlands and along the Church Road corridor. They were opposed to the airport development. Well, the county council member, District 6, was in favor of the development, and therefore, because he wasn't beholden to any Bowie residents, we do not have any residents who live in District 6. So we had no representation. Wouldn't it be wise if we had more representation on the county council as opposed to less? If we could grow we're the largest city in Prince George's County, the third in the state, I believe. We should have more representation on the county council. If it goes from 1 to 2 to perhaps even 3, if we could grow it. And therefore, we're likely to get things done that we need done as far as our zoning and our development projects. Because it's just my opinion. And I think maybe if the residents understood that and were educated as to how the system works, then maybe they would understand, and they may even reconsider their position. Because many residents that I've talked to, when I explain it to them, they say, you're right. Victories come stronger when you're in numbers. And if we have 2 members, District 6 and District 4, representing the city of Bowie, we're a step closer to getting what we need done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Gardner. Do any of my other colleagues have any thoughts or questions or concerns on this matter?
Yeah, just a couple thoughts here. First, just staff, you guys can help me just for more reference and understanding. The redistricting commission makes a recommendation to the county council, who then will enact changes. Is that how that's supposed to work?
Correct.
Okay. If that's the case, I think Councilman Gardner brings up an interesting point. I don't 100% agree with the point, right? In the sense that on the surface, what he's saying is correct, right? I mean, more representation means a greater chance of having something get done. But it sounds like with this change, a significant part of Bowie actually wouldn't be going to 6, right? I mean, it'll be a neighborhood or 2, which means that from an electoral standpoint, you're really not beholden to the citizens of Bowie, right? And chances are it won't be somebody from like it is typically from 4, somebody from this body who ends up in that position. So I don't know if that actually makes sense in numbers, right? And I would have to look at the districts, the commission's recommendation. I think it just makes more sense for us moving forward to just have better candidates, supporting better candidates across the board, right? We are the largest municipality, and if somebody is running in 6, we should be just as interested in any of those races as anywhere else, right? I think that's a council thing that we need to do moving forward. But I do think that I agree with Councilwoman Ndebumadu here that we should do everything we can to make sure that District 4 stays as District 4.
And I apologize, I'll jump in real quick. I could be mistaken, but I thought I understood from the county that this was not actually a formal recommendation being made, but was merely a hypothetical that was put forward in response to a particular council member's question. So if I understand it correctly, this is not actually a formal recommendation. Councilmember Ndebumadu, am I mistaken about that? I may have lost her temporarily.
I can answer that.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember.
So it was a proposed recommendation from the redistricting commission. and they said, they will be continuing to look at the numbers. However, they made 2 recommendations, and this was one of them that they were proposing to make to the county council. However, ultimately, the county council has the authority and the voting rights on this, so they will
Okay.
make the ultimate decision.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much, Councilmember. So it was a formal recommendation, but the county council is in a position to overrule it. If that's the case, if none of my other colleagues have any other questions or thoughts on this, I'll happily entertain a motion.
I move
At
these.
this point, let me take,
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
no, go ahead. Go with your motion. You started. Go ahead.
I move that the council direct city staff to prepare a letter from council to support the residents in their action of keeping the entire incorporated city of Bowie within District 4 and not moving any neighborhoods out to District 6.
Second.
The motion is moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
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 All opposed signal by saying nay.
Nay.
And I apologize, Madam City Clerk, do you mind doing a roll call on this? Just since we're a little muddled, I apologize.
Yes, of course. Councilmember Estev?
Nay. Oh, I'm so sorry. Aye.
Okay. Councilmember Wolfley?
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison?
Aye.
Mayor Adams?
I believe we should follow the wishes of the people and make sure that we keep it continuous and not verb and I.
Mayor Pro Tem Boafo?
Aye.
Councilmember Endimamadu?
Aye.
Councilmember Gardner?
Nay, I believe that we should educate the public and allow the public to understand what we're getting them into or denying them representation.
All right, if I heard that correctly, that was 6-1, motion passes.
Yes.
I'm going to turn this over to Councilmember Wolfley.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment to adjourn to closed session under the statutory authority of the Maryland Annotated Code, State Government Article Section 3-305B7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice, and Section 3-305B14, before a contract is awarded or bids are opened, to discuss a matter directly related to a negotiating strategy or the contents of a bid proposal, if public discussion or disclosure would adversely impact the ability of the public body to participate in the competitive bidding or proposal process.
Second.
All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, have a very pleasant evening, and I just want to say on a personal note, this is the first meeting I've chaired. Thank you so much to all of my colleagues for making this such an easy and pleasant meeting. We had 7 or 8 votes, and almost all of them were unanimous, so thank you.
Bravo.
We can go back to misbehaving when Tim is
Great
back.
job.
Bravo, bravo.
Great job.
Have a good night, everyone.